When it comes to purchasing meat, every supermarket is vying for your dollar. CanStar Blue today revealing its most satisfied customer awards for supermarket cuts, and there was a clear.
Our last video, 6 worst, 5 best national grocery stores for meat, blew up the comments with one question. What about my store? Jewel, Schnucks, Piggly Wiggly, Hy-Vee, Stop and Shop. Names most of America has never heard of. But for you, that's Tuesday night dinner. So we went back to work. USDA and FDA records, local news investigations, customer complaints, and what former meat department employees said after they walked out. 9 regional stores you should think twice about for meat, and 6 local heroes that actually earn your trust. Midwest, South, Northeast. Before you skip to your region, each section has a story you won't find in the others. In the Midwest, a chain got caught grinding metal and plastic into your hamburger 15 times, and kept doing it. In the South, a store with a name you'd trust with your grandmother is actually owned by the chain rated most hazardous in America. And in the Northeast, a 100-year-old grocery chain is shutting 32 doors while charging you more than the competition. 3 different kinds of failure. You need all 3. Plus, halfway through, I'm giving you a 5-point meat safety check that works at any store in America. That alone is worth staying for. One thing before we start, we're ranking the system. Sourcing, policies, track record. Your local store might be the exception. By the end, you'll know how to judge for yourself. If you've been following this channel, you already know about Bruce Pack. Close to 12 million pounds of ready-to-eat meat yanked for listeria. We're not rehashing it. But some of the regional chains we're about to name were on that recall list. Others weren't. That gap tells you something. And with beef pushing $7 a pound, record territory, every bad purchase stings. Will your store make the cut? Let's find out. If you're in the Midwest, you grew up trusting your grocery store. Friday night cookouts, Sunday roasts. Meat and potatoes isn't a cliche where you come from, it's what's for dinner. But some of the chains you've been loyal to for decades aren't returning the favor. Worst number 3 in the Midwest, Hy-Vee. If you're in Iowa, Minnesota, Kansas, or the Dakotas, Hy-Vee is baked into your routine. Big stores, flashy marketing, and meat department ads boasting that only 5 out of 100 cattle make the cut. Sounds impressive, until you check what's actually in the case. Walk up to the self-service cooler and what you're grabbing is USDA Select, the bottom rung of graded beef at retail. The good stuff, choice, sometimes prime, sits behind the counter at a steeper price. Nothing posted explaining the difference. Trustpilot reviews tell the story. Customers who thought they were paying choice prices, only to realize they'd been sold Select. Hy-Vee isn't just quietly stocking Select. They're letting you assume it's better, then charging you like it is. That's not an oversight. That's a business model. Select at Hy-Vee often costs what choice costs at Fairway or Costco. You're paying top dollar for bottom shelf. On a fixed income, that math hurts. And it hits the stove too. Select is leaner, tougher, dries out fast. You pull a $22 roast out of the oven and it chews like a shoe. That's not you losing your touch. That's the grade they never told you about. And the worst part? You probably blamed yourself. Thought you overcooked it. Thought you bought the wrong cut. No, you bought the wrong grade because nobody in the store told you it was there. If Hy-Vee is your store, look for the USDA grade stamp on every package. No grade? Assume Select. Walk to the counter and ask for choice by name. Next, a name every Chicagoan treats like family. And a listeria recall that landed right in the deli aisle, exactly where older shoppers reach first. Worst number 2 in the Midwest, Jewel-Osco. If you grew up near Chicago, Jewel might as well be a relative. Your mom shopped there. You shop there. Half the time you call it Jewels. Possessive, like it belongs to you. Lately though, Jewel's been earning headlines it doesn't want. July 2025. Stores across Illinois, Indiana, and Iowa recalled deli items linked to listeria. The supplier, Reese's Fine Foods. The FDA flagged the danger specifically for older adults and anyone immunocompromised. That's a deli salad, the kind of thing you grab on a Tuesday when you don't feel like cooking. You pop the lid, eat a few bites from the fridge, and 2 days later find out it was on a recall list. That's the scenario we're talking about. And it wasn't isolated. In 2020, over 40,000 pounds of pork products got pulled because the imported trimmings were never properly re-inspected by USDA. That's not a quality slip, that's uninspected foreign meat on your plate. Deli salads and pre-made meats are exactly what a lot of us reach for. You're tired. The grandkids are coming. You shouldn't need a microbiology degree to know if lunch is safe. And listeria doesn't play fair with age. The CDC reports adults over 65 are hospitalized at 4 times the general rate. That's the CDC, not me being alarmist. Nobody should have to Google FDA recall list before eating a tuna salad they bought 3 hours ago. But right now, at Jewel, that's where we are. If Jewel is your store, ease up on deli salads and cold-prepared items if you're in a higher risk group. Fresh cuts you cook yourself are your safety net. Heat kills what labels can't. Now, worst number 1 in the Midwest, and a problem that keeps showing up in the grinder. Worst number 1 in the Midwest, Schnucks. If you're in St. Louis, you know this name like you know the Arch. Family-owned since 1939. About 118 stores. Feels local. Feels like yours. But the meat department has a pattern that's impossible to ignore. According to KSDK, St. Louis's own NBC affiliate, Schnucks issued 11 separate ground beef recalls at individual stores between 2020 and early 2025. Metal clips, plastic fragments, packaging pads ground into the beef, metal shavings. KSDK documented every single one. And since that tally, at least 4 more. Butler Hill Road, Belleville, Sullivan, Lindell Boulevard. Plastic, metal dust, metal clip. We're past 15 now, and it's always ground beef, the product most families buy more than any other. That's not a bad Tuesday. That's a 5-year pattern at a chain that charges more than the competition. Schnucks regularly prices meat higher than Dierberg's and Hy-Vee for comparable cuts, and the quality complaints go beyond the grinder. BBB reviewers describe packages that looked gorgeous on top, with a completely different, lower quality cut hidden underneath. One reviewer wrote, "2 totally different cuts of meat. Schnucks has cheated me a few other times with this type of practice, but I'm done with it. Cheated. Not disappointed. Cheated." 15+ recalls means this isn't oops. It's you and your family as the quality control department. Your teeth are the metal detector, and once you've bitten down on something that shouldn't be in your hamburger, you never trust that grinder again. If Schnucks is your store, treat it as a pinch hitter. Fine for a weeknight in a bind. But for anything you're cooking for people you care about, compare against Dierberg's, Fairway, or a local butcher. And ground beef? Inspect the package like your dinner depends on it. If you've ever found something in your meat that shouldn't have been there, any store, any state, tell me in the comments. Store plus state. I guarantee you're not alone. Drop Midwest in the comments. Now we flip the script. 2 stores that still do it right. The first one has butchers who've been cutting meat longer than some of you have been married. Best number 2 in the Midwest, Meijer. Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois. Big box footprint, wide aisles. Looks like it could be another Walmart. It's not. And the people who shop there will correct you fast if you make that comparison. Meijer has historically cut beef fresh and put it on display that same day. That's not a slogan. It's how the department operates. The ground beef you're picking up? Solid chance it was ground that morning. You can see the person who did it still standing behind the case. After Hy-Vee's grade shell game, Jewel's Deli recalls, and Schnucks grinding metal into your hamburger, a store where someone is physically behind the case, cutting meat fresh feels like a different century, in a good way. One caveat. Some locations, particularly in Southwest Ohio, have cut back or eliminated butcher service in the past year. A Meijer with an active counter and one without are 2 different stores. Check before you commit. Price-wise, Meijer sits in the middle. The weekly family pack sales on ground beef and chicken, that's where the value hides. If you're in Meijer country, pick locations with active counters, ask when the beef was last ground, and use the sales to stock your freezer. Now, best number 1, a chain founded by a meat supervisor where the average butcher has been cutting for almost 3 decades. Best number 1 in the Midwest, Fairway. 140+ stores across 7 Midwestern states, small towns and mid-sized cities. Nothing flashy on the outside, and some of the best grocery store meat in America on the inside. After everything we just sat through, grade games, listeria in the deli, metal and plastic ground into your hamburger, walking into a Fairway feels like stepping back into a time when someone looked you in the eye before handing you a cut of meat. Founded in 1938 by a meat supervisor, not a retailer, not a tech company, a man whose career was built around one thing, meat. The DNA still runs through the place. Every store has a full-service counter. USDA choice is the baseline, not the upsell. Pork and chicken are never pre-packaged or injected. According to Fairway, the average meat market manager has been with the company 29 years. Some have been there 40. These aren't kids cycling through a summer gig. These are people who've spent their adult lives learning how to put the right piece of meat in your hands. That old butcher who knew your name? Who'd never send you home with something he wouldn't eat himself? Fairway didn't just remember that era. They never left it. The downside? Regional? If you're not in the footprint, you're out of luck. And they close Sundays. Always have. In an industry that'll do anything to squeeze out 1 more hour of revenue, a chain that says our people deserve a day off tells you something about what else they're willing to protect. If you have a Fairway, Make it your primary stop for ground beef, roasts, pork. Build a relationship with the counter. They'll do custom cuts, smaller roasts, freezer wrapping. Save Fairway for what matters. Quick notes. Dierberg's in St. Louis. Consistently better meat than Schnucks. Woodman's in Wisconsin. Solid on price. Neither crack the main list, but both deserve a look. If you sat through that Midwest section thinking, Hy-Vee and Schnucks are the only stores in my town, this part is yours. Your 5-point survival check for buying meat at a store you don't fully trust. Works anywhere. 1. Flip the tray. Stores display the pretty side up. The bottom tells the truth. Gray edges, green tinge, put it back. 2. Check the seal. Pinholes, bulging plastic, broken wrap, deal breakers. Walk away. 3. Smell through the seal. Press gently near the edge. If it hits you sour, sulfurous, or just wrong, trust your nose over any label. Your nose has kept humans alive for thousands of years. The sell-by date's been around since the 70s. 4. Pooling liquid. A little moisture is normal. A puddle means that meat has been sitting too long. 5. Cook tonight or freeze tonight. Don't let it sit in your fridge for 3 days. If that meat was already borderline when you bought it, 3 days in your fridge finishes the job. And by then, you blame your refrigerator, not the store. That's how they get away with it. One more thing. Ground meat is the highest risk product in the case. More surface area, more room for bacteria. Buy smaller packages, cook or freeze same day, or ask them to grind a whole cut fresh for you. That single step changes everything. Keep those 5 in your pocket. We'll come back to them. Now let's head south. The South takes its meat seriously. Brisket in Texas, pulled pork in the Carolinas, Friday fish fries in Alabama. Down here, food isn't fuel, it's identity. But some of the chains that feed the South have histories that should make you look twice. And one has a name so cute you almost forget to check the label. Worst number 3 in the South, Food Lion. If you watched our national video, you know this story. Here's the short version, and what still hasn't changed. 1992, ABC Primetime Live sends undercover reporters into Food Lion stores in the Carolinas. Hidden cameras, grinding expired beef with fresh, using bleach on discolored pork, slathering barbecue sauce on old chicken to mask the smell and sell it as gourmet. Food Lion sued ABC for 7 years, but they never filed a defamation claim, never argued the footage was untrue. Nobody fights that long over video they could simply call fake. That was 30 years ago. Shoppers in 2024 and 2025 are still reporting chicken with a chlorine smell. Meat spoiling days before the printed date. If you've ever peeled back plastic on a pack of chicken and got hit with a smell like a public pool, that chemical punch in the face, you know exactly what these people are describing. One former employee commented on our last video. I used to call them old food warehouses. Check the dates on everything you buy. You can't unsmell chicken that hits you like pool chemicals when you peel back the plastic. That's a memory your nose stores permanently. If Food Lion is your store, cook today or freeze today is your only rule. Reach past the front row for newer dates. If the packaging feels damp or hints at chemicals, leave it. If you've ever had to throw out an entire pack of meat 2 days after buying it, tell me the store and the state. I want to see how often this really happens. Remember Safeway from our national video? Worst performer in that NBC Dateline investigation? 25 violations per 10 visits? That corporate family is about to show up again, under a different name. Worst number 2 in the South, Randall's. If you're in Texas, you probably don't know this. Randall's is Safeway. Same parent company, Albertsons, same sourcing, same supply chain, same recalls, different sign. October 2024, Albertsons recalled multiple ready meals and deli products over listeria concerns. Randall's stores in Texas were on that list. And as we covered in our national video, Safeway was the chain NBC Dateline flagged as the most hazardous in their study. Randall's shares that corporate bloodline. Texans think they're shopping local. Randall's sounds Texan, feels Texan. But behind the swinging doors, you're in the Safeway pipeline. Same industrial suppliers, same product. Randall's just charges more under a friendlier name. You didn't just overpay, you were set up to overpay. The local branding isn't an accident, it's a strategy. If you're reaching for their deli items, ready-made meals, prepackaged salads, sliced meats, those are exactly the categories that keep showing up in recalls. For anyone over 50, convenient and risky shouldn't be the same word. If Randall's is your store, skip house brand deli products. Take your meat business to H-E-B or local butcher. One thing worth knowing, Randall's carries Aspen Ridge branded beef. Different sourcing, real standards. Not the default, but it's there. Now, worst number 1 in the South, a little pig on the sign. Your mama probably shopped there, but when every store is run by a different owner with different rules, nostalgia doesn't keep you safe. Worst number 1 in the South, Piggly Wiggly. Here's what most people don't realize about the pig. Every single location is independently owned. No central meat quality standard, no chain-wide inspections, no corporate team making sure one store matches the next. Every time you walk in, you're spinning a wheel. Is today the proud local owner, or the store that smells like wet drywall and old meat? There's no way to know until you're standing in the aisle. A grocery industry writer who visited multiple Atlanta area locations described stores that smelled of rotten, sour, old fixtures, mold, shelving that hadn't been updated since Reagan, freezer bunkers jury-rigged with extension cords from the ceiling. His conclusion? These stores were an insult to the community who depended on them. Then there's sourcing. Shoppers have posted about finding pork labeled "product of China" and beef tenderloins from Mexico. Nothing on the display explaining the origin. When a store runs a tenderloin at $4.99 a pound, flip the package over before you flip it into your cart. The franchise model means nobody at headquarters is checking your location's meat department. That job falls to you. The Piggly Wiggly your mama trusted had an owner who'd look her in the eye at church. The Piggly Wiggly you're shopping at might have an owner 3 towns over who's never set foot inside. If Piggly Wiggly is your store, judge by 3 things. Smell. If the department hits you before you touch a package, turn around. Turnover, markdowns, and discount stickers piling up means product isn't moving fast enough. And visibility, is someone back there cutting? Or is everything sealed and abandoned? No butcher in sight? Buy the minimum and cook it tonight. If you've worked at any of these southern chains, how close did we get? Confirm it or correct me in the comments. Drop south if you're still here. Now, 2 stores that remind you what southern pride in food actually looks like. Best number 2 in the South, Ingles. After a franchise with no oversight, a Safeway in disguise, and a chain still smelling like the 1992 scandal, Ingles is a breath of fresh air. Literally. Western North Carolina, upstate South Carolina, northern Georgia, parts of Tennessee and Virginia. Over 200 stores, all within 250 miles of their single distribution center in Asheville. For a lot of you in smaller southern communities, Ingles is the one store where you still see someone working the meat case. Founded in 1963 by Robert Ingle, 3rd-generation grocery family. Everything ships from one warehouse, meaning shorter runs and fresher product than chains trucking from across the country. Shoppers and food writers credit Ingles with visible meat cutters, on-site grinding, and something you won't see at most big chains. They skip the color-preserving packaging that makes old meat look new. When it's bright and red at Ingles, that brightness is earned, not engineered. Ingles isn't flawless. Employee reviews on management are mixed, and the deli side gets weaker marks. This is a meat recommendation, not a blank check. Use Ingles for ground beef and custom cuts. Do what one of our viewers described. Dry goods at the discount store, meat at Ingles. Smart money. Best number 1 in the South, Texas. If you live there, you've been shouting this name at your screen since the video started. Best number 1 in the South, H-E-B. When we dropped our national video, the comments turned into an H-E-B rally. Where's H-E-B? You can't rank meat without H-E-B. Fair enough. Let's talk about why Texas refuses to be quiet, and why nobody should ask them to be. H-E-B scores in the low 80s on the American Customer Satisfaction Index, among the highest of any chain in the country. Meat department strong across the board. Regional sourcing when they can get it. Freshness that rivals standalone butcher shops. But numbers don't capture what separates H-E-B. The stores feel like somebody gives a damn. Cases are clean. Staff knows what's behind the glass. There's a pride no corporate memo can manufacture. In Texas, where brisket isn't dinner, it's a belief system, that matters. After Randall's charging you Safeway prices under a Texas flag, and Piggly Wiggly locations where the franchise owner might never have visited the store, H-E-B feels like proof that the grocery business doesn't have to work this way. I have to be straight with you though. H-E-B wasn't untouched by the Bruce Pack recall. October 2024, several frozen casseroles and prepared meals were on the Listeria list. Even the best stores take a hit when a supplier fails upstream. The difference is what happens on the store's own turf. And H-E-B's fresh counter is a completely different operation from the frozen aisle. If you're in Texas, H-E-B should be your default for fresh beef and pork. The counter, not the frozen section. Talk to the staff. That's what they're trained for. Quick note, Brookshire's in East Texas and Louisiana. Solid meat departments. If H-E-B isn't close, worth the trip. The Northeast has more grocery stores per square mile than anywhere in the country. Competition should push quality up. Sometimes it does. But desperate stores cut corners, and a 100-year-old name doesn't guarantee a 100-year-old standard. Worst number 3 in the Northeast, Weis Markets. Pennsylvania, Maryland, New York, New Jersey, Virginia, West Virginia. About 200 stores. The kind of place you stop at because it's on the way home, not because you chose it. Satisfaction surveys put Weis well below Wegmans and Costco. The meat section feels like an afterthought. Limited cuts, rotating staff, customer commentary, just okay. Not bad enough for headlines, not good enough for loyalty. And that's the thing that should bother you. Just okay at full supermarket prices is a quiet ripoff. You're paying as if you're getting something real, but the store put its energy everywhere except the meat case. When better options exist within driving distance, just okay is just not enough. Use Weis for shelf-stable groceries. Put your meat money somewhere that actually tries. Worst number 2 in the Northeast, Giant. Giant Food and Giant Martin's, both Ahold Delhaize. Same parent as Stop & Shop, same parent as Food Lion. Keep that connection in your head. If you're in Maryland, Virginia, DC, or Pennsylvania, Giant is the store you end up at, close and open late, not the one you drive to on purpose. In meat rankings, Giant parks mid to low. Butcher presence is minimal. What you see is what a facility somewhere else wrapped and shipped. Forums say the same thing. Giant works in a pinch, but nobody's picking Giant for the Thanksgiving turkey. And that's the trap. You keep going back because it's there, not because it's good. You get used to fine. You lower your expectations without even realizing it. And meanwhile, Giant charges more than Walmart and Aldi without being as good as Wegmans or Costco. You're paying for a location, not for what's behind the glass. If Giant is your stop, sale items, cook them fast. Skip anything high stakes. Roasts, holiday cuts, anything for guests. Those deserve a different store. Now, worst number 1 in the Northeast. A chain that just locked the doors on 32 locations. And a meat case that can't keep up with the name on the sign. Worst number 1 in the Northeast. Stop & Shop. 350 plus stores across Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New York, and New Jersey. Over 100 years old. For New England families, Stop & Shop is a landmark. The place your grandmother took you when you were small enough to ride in the cart. In 2024, they closed 32 stores. 32 across all 5 states. That's not trimming fat, that's emergency surgery. Analysts described serious fundamental weaknesses, declining conditions, uncompetitive prices, falling quality. Employees on Reddit told a bleaker version, chronic understaffing, nobody in charge caring about the case. Think about what that means for meat. When a chain is slashing staff and scrambling to close stores, careful eyes on the case disappear first. Nobody has time to pull what should have been tossed. Nobody's checking temperatures twice. The guy who used to notice the gray edges before you could? He got laid off in the last round of cuts. The meat doesn't get worse because someone decided to make it worse. It gets worse because nobody's watching anymore. Stop & Shop is Ahold Delhaize, same parent as Giant and Food Lion. When Bruce Pack triggers a recall, Stop & Shop's private label products sit on the same list as its sister chains. The supply chain doesn't read the sign on the building, and you're paying more than Market Basket, more than ShopRite, sometimes more than Wegmans for the privilege. If you grew up with Stop & Shop, 32 dark storefronts should tell you something. You kept paying more because of the name over the door while everything behind the scenes was quietly falling apart. The chain your parents knew and the chain that exists today share a name. That's about all they share. If Stop & Shop is your store, shop elsewhere for meat. King Cullen, Stu Leonard's, ShopRite, a local butcher. If you're stuck, the 5-point check applies every visit. Tell me the worst thing you've ever seen in a Northeast meat case. Store plus state. The stories are going to pour in. Drop Northeast if you made it. 2 stores that prove the region hasn't forgotten how to do this right. Best number 2 in the Northeast, King Cullen. After a store coasting on fine, a store coasting on close, and a 100-year chain that just closed 32 locations, here's a chain nobody outside Long Island has heard of, doing more with 30 stores than some companies manage with 350. About 30 stores all on Long Island. Tiny footprint, no national profile. But quietly, almost stubbornly, King Cullen is outperforming names 10 times its size. In a 2025 ranking, King Cullen scored well. USDA Choice as Standard, antibiotic-free options. USDA Process-Verified Poultry, Bell & Evans Chicken. That's a 30-store chain making sourcing decisions the 350-store chain across the street won't. On Long Island, surrounded by Stop & Shop and Giant, King Cullen lets the product do the talking. No billboards, just better meat. The limitation writes itself. 30 stores, 1 corner of New York. But if you're in their footprint, make it your primary meat stop. And now, this is where I ask you something. If you've made it this far through 9 stores that might have surprised you, through the 5-point check, through the stores that are earning it, you're exactly the kind of viewer we make these videos for. Someone who wants the facts, not the fluff, not the sponsored opinion. If that's worth something, subscribe. We do this regularly. No sponsors from the companies we review, just information you can use at the store tomorrow. The next one is worth staying for. Best number 1 in the Northeast, Stu Leonard's. 7 stores, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, founded in 1969 as a dairy shop. Walk in today and it feels like a farmer's market that found a permanent address. Animatronic farm animals, free samples, more energy per square foot than any grocery store has a right to. But underneath the spectacle, this store was built on fresh food, and meat sits at the center. According to Progressive Grocer, roughly 80% of what Stu Leonard sells is fresh. They butcher in-store, cut to order, ground beef ground that day. The company says its beef comes from family-owned Midwest ranches the president has personally visited, and they'll tell you which ones. Progressive Grocer called them a master of fresh. Butchers operating closer to a high-end restaurant than a grocery chain. Annual revenue approximately $500 million across 7 stores, $70 million per location. Those numbers don't come from curiosity shoppers. They come from people who walked in once, realized they'd been settling everywhere else and never went back. The butchers don't just cut, they coach. Best cut for your budget, right thickness for your grill. They talk to you like neighbors, not ticket numbers. After 9 stores where the meat case felt like a gamble, where you're flipping trays and sniffing through plastic just to protect yourself, a place where the butcher says, "I wouldn't sell that to my own mother," and means it, that hits different. After spending this whole video treating every package like a crime scene, being able to just trust someone with your dinner feels almost unreal. That feeling we've been chasing this whole video. The one that disappeared when grocery stores turned into fluorescent warehouses? Stu Leonard's held onto it. 7 stores. Not a discount operation, but if you have one, use it for what matters. Fresh beef, pork, holiday roasts, ground beef, you don't have to second guess. Ask the butchers to steer you toward cheaper cuts that cook beautifully. They will. Quick note, ShopRite earns solid marks in the Northeast, and Wegmans remains excellent. Neither needed a full segment, but both deserve your attention. Before we wrap, a few chains that didn't make either list but keep coming up in your comments. Kroger, most requested chain. Nearly 2,800 stores. We've got insider stories that would shock you and loyal customers who swear by it. Varies wildly by zip code. It's getting its own video. Whole Foods. Strict standards, peace of mind at a price. Trader Joe's, good meat, but the selection is a closet. Aldi, polarizing, swings by location. Trust your experience over any list. Chains you've been requesting. Publix, Winco, Stater Bros, Market Basket, Harris Teeter, Price Chopper, Fresh Market. More deep dives coming. Drop your store and state in the comments. Here's what stays with you after you close this video. There is no perfect grocery store. What you have now is something more useful. You know what to look for, you know what to smell, you know what questions to ask, and what silence from the other side of the counter actually means. The stores on the worst list are counting on you to walk in, grab the package, and never flip it over. Never ask about the grade. Never wonder why the price went up but the quality didn't come with it. They are betting on your habit, your loyalty, your trust. Every dollar you spend on meat is a vote. For the store that earned it, or the one betting you won't notice the difference. Make them earn it. If you've spent decades feeding a family, your perspective matters more than any ranking. Tell me what we got right, what we missed. Drop it in the comments. And if you ever worked behind the meat counter, any store, any state, I want to hear what you saw. The best stories, with your permission, go in the next video. This comment section isn't feedback, it's field research. Thumbs up if this helped. That's how more people find it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.